Hi, I'm Supermoon Tarot, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at the question, what if you never talked about the past again? Your past specifically. Now, let's get into details because we want to be on the same page when it comes to this reading. Now, this was a really interesting what if question that my spirit guide, who I work with most often for tarot, requested for me to do a video on. And I actually want to do a bunch more what if scenarios. So if you have any personal what if questions you'd love me to do a video focused on, send it this way in the comments below. I'm excited to get into this. I might do like a bunch in a row because I mean, there's just so many potential what ifs. And I might even, and I want to know what your opinion is on this. I've been thinking of doing maybe a what if of like, what if you did this? And then a separate video of being like, and then what if you ended up doing this? Or do you want me to combine the two into one video? Let me know. Okay, so now let's talk about this idea as a whole, because while this was requested to me by my spirit guide, it really heavily made me think about something that I went over with somebody I was helping out recently, where their past plagued them. So when we talk about not talking about your past, I want to be clear. It is so wonderful and healthy to not repress things. I want to be clear here. We always talk about this. We're not talking about repression. But there is a point where you want to maybe take a self-aware moment to look at how you communicate and express yourself. Do you feel like you're coming from the version of yourself now in this moment, or do you feel like there are a lot of times you refer to the past as a way to express an idea? Now, this could be a little more innocent, like a story from your past, and you're just kind of casually being like, oh yeah, I can totally relate to your situation. Here is a situation from my past, whether that be positive or negative. Or do you sometimes use it as a way to help people understand you? Like maybe you're feeling shy or insecure and you're like, well, this is what I went through. And so because I went through this thing, and here's some of my past and some explanation or story, you can understand who I am now. And again, all of these are really positive ways of communicating, bonding, connecting. But we're doing a what if scenario and we're trying out different things. And there is not one way you have to live your life, your whole life. So this person I was helping, back to this concept. So their past really plagued them to the point where they often came from a narration of themselves internally that saw themselves as like a hurt, broken, what's wrong with me type of mentality due to what they had been through. And it was completely understandable due to what they had been through. I mean, it's always understandable. I want to be clear. There's not like a measurement of what you have to experience for your feelings to be valid. I want to be clear about that. But the point being is, it was controlling their existence now, more so than they had realized it was. And so in me, helping them, my spirit guide actually came through. Want to always clarify, I don't own these spirit guides. I just work with them most predominantly. They could potentially be your spirit guide too. Spirit guides are very interchangeable. They work with everyone. Just want to be clear about that. But the spirit guide that is like one of my closest, my main ones that came up to give them advice that was really good. They said, and this is what my spirit guide said to them, you often say to yourself, what is wrong with me? But nothing is actually wrong with you. When you were younger, a narrative somebody else had for you was sort of brainwashed and put upon you. And then what ended up happening is, as you grew, there's this torn internal part of yourself where you feel like you're coming from that narrative that was pushed upon you, and the other narrative that who you are that isn't quite fleshed out yet. You know it's there, you feel when it's true, you feel when it naturally evolves and makes sense to who your identity is authentically, but it's not getting a chance to breathe or exist or for you to get excited about it because of this back and forth pull of this other narration coming in. And so when you say, what is wrong with me? You're actually trying to tell yourself something is wrong, not as in you're doing something wrong, but something like a puzzle piece, an extra gear in your system is being added to you that doesn't need to be there. That's not part of how you work. It's like your computer and someone threw in an extra motherboard or an extra RAM, and it's like, what is this doing here? This is not necessary. It's messing things up. It's making things complicated. And so essentially, they were helping them by saying, we're going to try to rewrite that narrative so that you can connect more to what is true to you, the narration of who you really are. And one of the things they were requesting them to is to sort of rewrite sort of their past, if you will. They went through this whole, like, I'm going a little bit of ramble, but I think you guys might be interested in this. But they sort of asked them to reimagine their entire childhood in the way they would have liked it. And they said, it's not about erasing or ignoring who you were at that time, or like, again, the repression vibe. It's that we're trying to get your mindset in the mode of when you're creating the reality that you did want of the past, you're then getting in this mindset of what you really want, and you're creating that to be your main focal point and where you're coming from enough so that when you go to express yourself, you're not acting from the narration of the person who had this pushed upon them, all these other horrible memories. You're instead acting from this place of like, okay, well, what would be the version of you that hadn't experienced all of these things? And letting yourself essentially, like giving yourself sort of the booster pack and push up to help you get to the version of yourself that then can process these things in an easier way, that can start to get to know who you really are outside of all of this. Because again, I want to be clear, we're not repressing, we're not detaching. There is a point where it's sort of like saying, like, how can we give yourself a bit of a break and see who you are amongst all of this? And I thought that was a really interesting, what they were sharing, what they were advising and everything like that. So when my tarot spirit guide, separate spirit guide was like, do this, I was like, oh, that makes me think of the two. And they are a really interesting scenario. So again, we're trying to see, well, what if you didn't tell a story and clarified who you were and justified who you were through saying, and here's how I can relate, I have been through what you've been through. Why can't your word be enough? Kind of like how no is a complete sentence. How can you say, I get it, be enough? How can you build more new memories rather than being focused on the old? How can you come from the place of who you would like to be now rather than how you didn't like how you were back then or what you had been through? This is so many layers, so many complex ideas, both for people who've been through breakups to like really serious stuff that you've been through when you were like younger or any age, and so on and so forth. So I think this is really fascinating. And I hope you sat through all of this. Please leave a cute little, like that heart emoji with the sparkly hearts if you stayed all the way through to get the full clarification, so we are on the same page. In addition to this, I went on a huge tarot haul type thing. I filmed a video. I'm releasing it at the same time as this video over on Patreon, where you can see all my new tarot card decks. I've been posting there over the last several months consistently, so I just posted a new Patreon exclusive tarot reading over there about what is it that you need to heal most. I've been updating it with tons of exercises, messages, channelings, psychic exercises, like meditations, all that type of fun stuff. And I'm just letting you know that's over there. It's a great way to get tons of extra content. But it's like a fun way to both support the channel and get a bunch of other stuff in return. And also the community. When I say this community makes me cry, like nobody else, they are very beautiful. So if you want to join a bunch of other beautiful people, you're welcome to. Anyways, back to this reading. So we got 4 groups in front of us. Group number 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold in your mind the mindset of, what if I didn't talk about the past again? And remember, we're not talking about thinking, we're talking about talking, expression. And as you hold that on to, then pick the group you feel that you're resonating with. Whether that feels like it's glowing, you're pulled to it, you know it, a number flashes in your head. Remember, all forms of receiving psychic messages are valid. So I'm going to give you a moment to do that. All right, now that you have, oh, also please don't forget to leave this video a like, subscribe, all that good jazz. I love you so much. I look forward to get started into this, and let's get started with group number 1. Group number 1, let's find out what would happen if you didn't speak about the past anymore by looking at the cards, which, by the way, before I even pull these cards, when I say there is an extremely high vibrational vibe around this group, like I feel like I'm gonna trance out. It's so high. Like, I love it. It's so beautiful. So let's look at them. We've got the Page of Cups in reverse, Ace of Wands upright, the Three of Pentacles upright. I'm gonna have to adjust this. The Sun card. Don't worry, I'm gonna adjust everything. Sun card upright. 9 of Cups upright, 10 of Cups upright. Wow, Page of Cups upright. Wow! Remember how I said this was a very, very nice feeling deck? Wow, you could not get better cards. Wow! Oh, I'm excited for you. Let me push that up there. Okay, give me just 1 second. I'm going to look at the details of all of these cards, and I will get back to you in 1 moment. The vibes off of this are so intense, in a very good way. Like, very, I feel like when I go to different parts of the spirit realm, and when I get like really deep into spirit realm traveling, I start to kind of feel this intense wave come off me. It's actually really cute when I do. My cat starts to also kind of like close their eyes, chill out. And if you know my videos, because you like hear them in the background, but Peach can be, you know, like very playful, rambunctious, bopping around, and you know, he just chills out when I'm doing that. So anyways, let's get into this. This is such a fun reading, so get excited about it and let it potentially be the motivator for you to try this out. So first we have over here in the Three of Pentacles. So remember, you're not talking about the past as in, even if, and this is referring to your work, we're talking about, like, let's say you've been at this job for maybe like 6 months, a year, 3 months, whatever. Starting tomorrow, whatever happened before at the same place, same location, same company, you are just forgetting. You're no longer comparing the now to whatever has happened. It's as if it's a fresh start, okay? And it really becomes that really intensely. So work starts to flow really smoothly. I do actually see new employees around some people who you would be working with these new employees, and for other people there'd be new employees working for you. But it's this feeling of everything being smooth, people that are problematic just sort of all of a sudden disappearing in the shadows and leaving, not being scheduled with you anymore. I see a lot of smoothness. One of the biggest things I feel energetically smoothness wise is this feeling of things that you need to do around you running smoothly. So let's say you often run into a problem where you run out of a certain office supplies or supplies in general at your job, and it's annoying to refill it, and it's like it always seems to be filled, or the shipment always came in time, and suddenly somebody organized it in a much better systematic kind of way, and it's this smoothness at your job where you start to feel like you're not overloaded by the potential stresses, and instead your head feels almost like you're floating by through work. Like it's not something that's difficult anymore. It's something where a good example is, you know how some people see some chores as like, oh, I've got to load this, and like, let's say the laundry, right? And you're like, I got to load it in, I got to load it out, I got to fold it, I got to organize it, right? And you might be organizing all these different parts of the step, and they start to really bog you down with the idea of it, compared to maybe you're sweeping, you know, like your porch or something, and you're like, yeah, I'm just chilling out, I'm listening to music, I just brush away the leaves, it's really relaxing, and to you, that just feels like you're floating by. It's no effort. It's in fact enjoyable. That's what it feels like at work heavily. Overall, there is just a giant sense of flow and freshness and relief, and it no longer feels like it plagues you anymore, which is really beautiful. Now, when we talk about that sense of like freshness and openness, the Sun card really takes that to another level. I liked how my spirit guide was describing it. They said, you would feel very comfortable with happiness around this time and going forward, where the idea of accepting any form of happiness feels easier. And one of the biggest things they pointed out was there would be this comfortability with happiness where you wouldn't be worried it would go away. You wouldn't be thinking, oh, I need a certain amount of things to happen before I really feel happy. Before then, I'm okay, but I need a bunch of stuff to happen before I'm really feeling those vibes. It's more like you're not worried that there needs to be a lot. You're not focused on the before. You feel it coming to you a lot easier. You're accepting it easier. As you're accepting it easier, you're not afraid it's going to go away. And there's just this weightlessness to you and new energy that we're going to go on over here and once we go through some more cards. So keep that in mind. But that idea of being comfortable with happiness is really interesting how it extends over here, because you're going to start to notice how, as always in my tarot card readings, one's like affecting the other and how they build up. I really like it because everything always affects the other things. Like, that's just how all of the universe works. But it's really beautiful when you get to be a part of that process and then see all the benefits, to be conscious of it, and then therefore get the fullness and awareness of those benefits. So specifically in the Nine of Cups, this is often referred to as the Witch card, but there's something specific about this that my spirit guide said. They said, yes, you know, you will receive a lot of manifestations, and this is like a great time to be like wishing for a lot of things, but it's more so about, they said you have a lot of blockages, not when it comes to manifesting, but receiving those manifestations. And they said you have blockages on like a bunch of different levels, but as you're accepting different kinds of happiness, accepting all measurements of it, you feel comfortable being in it, around it, you trust it's going to last, you trust it's going to come again, and you're in that flow and vibe, you end up opening yourself up to be at a higher level of receiving. And one thing in particular that stands out to me that I can see is that when it comes to your receiving levels of happiness, it's almost like you will limit it based on, I don't want to, maybe the term would be not feeling good enough, but it's almost like, let's say someone showed up and gave you flowers and like a little gift, and you'd be like, oh, thank you so much. And then if they showed up and were like, and I got you a massage, and I got you a bunch of variations of this gift, and we're going to be driving to this cool new place, if you were too overloaded with it, you would start to be like, well, I mean, I don't know, like, maybe I don't need all of this, or like, is me having all of this taking away from receiving and having presence another time? It's almost like this feeling of, you think that there is an allotted amount of gifts that are potential and good things that could happen to you, and if they're all overloaded and given to you all at once in slight variations that are great but maybe not the ideal thing you wanted, you just received anything, and they were all clumped up in one time period, it's almost like, oh no, now it won't be spread out the rest of the year. I'm only going to get 100 in a year, and I've gotten 80, and that means I won't have any for the rest of the year. And there's this feeling of you finally accepting that you want all 80, and you want all 80 wishes every time you receive everything. You want the most all the time, and you're comfortable with it. You start to feel comfortable asking for it. You feel comfortable knowing you will receive it. You're open to receiving it. It's easier for you to realize that you're receiving it. And so that's really important to notice here. It's the realization and the acceptance that is leaking over and then making it not only just like a euphoric, happy, light state, but then it leads to it making it easier for you to receive all of your manifestations and feel comfortable and trusting in that it's going to keep being that way and stay around and be such a high volume that you get to always be lucky. You get to always be the one, spoiled and blessed and get all the things you desire, which is really beautiful. Now that feeling starts to become super loving in the 10 of Cups. Now my spirit guide said that this can potentially relate to family that's close to you, but they really stress that it's much higher involving around people that feel like family really close to you. So this would be like a tight-knit group of friends. This could be your romantic partner and like your little family unit. But it's the idea of it's these people close to you. There's this really heavy layer of love with the happiness where everybody is deeply loving what they're doing. They can feel that the people around them via this little group we're talking about also are loving whatever they're doing. So it essentially feeds and therefore elevates their own personal happiness even more. And it's this like beautiful, super healthy cycle of everyone just loving one another, feeling that love, feeling each other's success, getting more success from feeling each other's success. And I want to be clear, there's just this really high level of feeling like, I'm deeply enjoying and love what I do. Whether that be like a career, my spirit guide's shaking their head, yes. Wait, let me just double check. Oh, they were confirming, they're like, yep. A deep, high level of like, we're hanging out, and it's not just a hangout. We all felt so satisfied with that hangout. And so I love that for you. And then before we get to these Page of Cups, because they are a wonderful confirming note to all of this, we're going to talk about the Ace of Wands here, and you're going to see how it all kind of progresses like a chronological story in a way. So in the Ace of Wands, my spirit guide said that once you make the decision, and they said it depends on how much you commit, but if you like commit to being like, I'm not going to mention the past at all, I'm going to do whatever I can to work around how I talk about things where I just don't mention it at all. And again, we're not talking about thinking, we're talking about just expressing it, talking about it. And once you've made that commitment and you commit to it longer and longer and it continues to ramp up in benefits, you're going to be getting this new energy wave you're on. And that's what it will feel like. It will feel to your very core like you're just a totally different person. Like a month, a week will go by and you'll look back at who you were and how you expressed yourself, and you'll be like, I don't know how to put it. It's not just what I say. It's not just what I did. I feel like a totally new person. And my spirit guide wants you to really understand that concept of energy within yourself, because you're literally hopping onto this new wavelength, this new energy wave. That's what's then enabling you to attract all of this stuff. That's what's making it easier, instead of it being something where as you're moving forward on your frequency and you're constantly having to clear out the pathway, keep restoring it, keep rehealing it, move things out of the way. It's almost like you got a fresh start. It's almost like you reincarnated and you got the lottery and they're just like, okay, here you go. No problems, no issues. Here you go. Boop. Here you go. Everything's easy for you now. And you're just accepting and wanting of that. And that's why it feels so much easier as you move forward. Because you've made this decision, it creates just such a push, such a, like now we're moving into this better situation, which is really beautiful. And then last but not least is the Page of Cups, both in reverse and upright. We want to think of this as the beginning of your journey, and it specifically talks about the ideas of you having a hard time accepting messages. There's a lot of denial and a lot of doubt and sort of like downgrading when messages are being sent to you. And so this means everything from like your intuition to like the spirit guides trying to send you information. And remember, when we receive messages from the universe, it could be anything as upfront as like you see like word for word something and reflecting your inner doubt of if you should do a situation or not, and it literally says like don't do it, or there's a song that's like don't do it. Or it could be more abstract, where it feels like you keep running into things that are slowing you down. It's implying like, don't go in this direction. It's supposed to not be easy. You want an easier direction. And so it can come in many different forms, whether it be through the actions around you, songs, feelings, your intuition. The list goes on in many ways. But here there's just like a lack of connection to it and suffering because of it. And then you hop on this new energy wave that builds and builds and builds in all these different versions and levels of happiness and love. And there are different versions of it that you benefit from and enjoy rolling into very easily. And then once all of these are being received and you're in the flow of this is then when we have the Page of Cups. And it's really beautiful because you just basically are in super heightened awareness and flow and acceptance of these messages. So it makes it incredibly easy for you to receive warnings. It makes it incredibly easy for you to be like, you know what? I just know where we're going to have fun next. You know what? I just feel like this is a good idea. And you just start to not feel like you have to control about what you need to be conscious of next, but instead you're just flowing really easy from one moment to decision to concept to idea, whether that be using your own intuition to being more conscious of a message being given to you, to being aware of the deeper meaning of something, and it just all flows through you without you even needing to be like, but what does it mean? You're just like, yep, I know what that means. And something that's really interesting is when it, and I'll just say this on a last note. So when you get deeper into any form of connection with like cosmic knowledge and psychic stuff, you don't need to take on the mindset of the physical world where it makes you believe you're not able to access that information unless you do X, Y, and Z for a certain amount of years and blah, blah, blah. That's actually not how it works. And weirdly enough, the more you open your mind up in certain ways, the more certain things just naturally flow through you. And you're like, whoa, I guess I'm just really good at this. I don't know how I knew that. And you allow that to come into your life more and more. So think of it like that, which is really beautiful. Like you just open up a part of yourself and it's almost as if you had been going to like, psychic school for years and years, which is really cool. So love that for you. Really, 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 I cannot stress this enough. Really high vibrational vibes. Love this for you. Let it be a potential motivator if you wanted to try this out. Try it out for a month. See what it feels like. You'll see the benefits. I hope you enjoyed this. I love you so much. I look forward to seeing the next one. And let's get ready for group number 2. Group number 2. Let's get into this reading and find out what would happen if you stopped speaking about the past by looking at the cards. So we've got the Queen of Swords in reverse. I don't know why this made me think of Princess Diana for a second. We've got the Queen of Pentacles upright, the Ten of Pentacles in reverse. Oh, this is a really interesting narrative. 8 of Swords upright, King of Pentacles upright, 5 of Swords upright, and the Strength card in reverse. Give me one moment to look at all of these cards with the details and consult my spirit guides, and I'll be with you in 1 second. Okay, let's get into this. Okay, so this is really detailed and interesting and specific. So first we're going to start off with the Queen of Swords. It's going to be a little harsh to hear this, but Stick with me, it turns out really positive. So one of the initial first things that happens once you stop talking about the past is there's this really self-aware moment of how harsh you can be with your words. Now, something really important here is the Queen of Swords, typically when she's upright, she can be pretty brutally honest. But the thing about her is when she goes to express herself, while it might seem really intense, it's for the love and respect of other people and thinking, okay, let me get it out. Let's be honest. Let's cut to the chase, because out of love, I'm saving you time. We're getting right to the point of it. Do we want the same things? Blah, blah, blah. But in reverse, she's very, very smart. And she essentially is too intense with her words and sometimes can really hurt other people's feelings, not feel like herself and hurt her own. There can be a lot of self-judgment. It often comes from a self-judgment place. And there's this awareness you have in yourself where you're like, oh, that's not really who I am and how I want to express myself. And there's a natural departing of that. Now, the progression of where it goes from here is so interesting, because then we lead over here to the Ten of Pentacles upright. And I know I skipped the Queen of Pentacles, we're bouncing around. And then the Queen of Pentacles upright, it shows that you are going to actually get quite a lot of money, but it talks about it almost being inherited. Does it have to be for their family? No, but it most likely will be family. Correct. Okay, I'm just consulting my spirit guides. Anyways, so with that being inherited, which is awesome, a lot of money, we see this other woman in the picture, and it is specifically, they said it is a woman, and this woman really seems like she wants to have some form of control over you, or making you think that you have to do what she wants or kind of jump through hoops in order to basically receive this inheritance, so to speak, this large sum of money. And once you depart from these harsh words and realize this is not helping, and I want to be really clear about this. This is really important for me to say before we move on here. It's almost this feeling like you're well, what am I going to do? Lie to myself and not say it? And you think you're coming from that place, but it kind of trapped you in a mindset that was only operating from kind of seeing the worst and picking things apart in that kind of way, and not aware that there are many perspectives and ways you can come from and still be authentic to you. So it's not about not noticing those things, but realizing, are you only coming from one place? And interestingly enough, there's this lightness too that happens, right? Again, we're all talking about, you're just not talking about the past, there's this self-awareness, and then there's this lightness in you, where there's this deep knowing and awareness that this person might try to trick you and make you think that they have some form of influence or control, but there's this inner spirit in you where you know that that money is just going to be yours. There's nothing you have to do. You don't take on any of their emotions, or you don't jump through any of their hoops. That causes definitely frustration in them, but even that doesn't affect you or change your day-to-day life or anything, and you're just totally, euphorically at peace. Oh, Peach! I'm sorry about that. My cat wants dinner early. Anyways, back to what we were saying. So there's this euphoric vibe you're giving off where you're no, I just know I'm gonna get that money. I'm not stressed about it. It feels like it's already mine, and I'm happy and excited about it. Now, that idea of that money, we're going to expand upon that more, but let's go to her for a second. So what ends up happening with her in the long term is we see this huge downfall with this woman, and she sort of gets trapped by her own harshness. There suddenly becomes this awakening you and awareness that you basically stopped within yourself what would have over decades, many decades. Oh wait, my spirit guide's popping in. My spirit guide has their hands folded and they're kind of giving a side eye, and they're it wouldn't be that long. But as in it wouldn't take that long for you to essentially also become somebody who is either trying to, I know this sounds really harsh, but I'm just the messenger. You would have in the long term become someone like them who is trying to either trap other people with their words to avoid being trapped by their own words, essentially. And essentially, you stopped it. You're on a whole different vibe. they then end up having to deal with the consequences of not choosing to be self-aware of themselves and deal with their own stuff, and they're just sort of trapped by it. Now, you end up taking this money and you end up getting really into investing with the King of Pentacles upright, which is really cool. And it just appears you're really good at it. Like, you just kind of have a lot of natural intuition. Everything you invest in just seems to work. And so you take this money and you essentially make it more in such a manner that, while I do see you like meeting with people and having to do some level of work in order to get these investments going, you are definitely living a much more bougier life with a lot less the day-to-day grind type of thing. You are for sure spending more time relaxing, having fun, but I do see a joy in this, like a fixation for you. Like, it's fun to chase the high of what's going to be your next investment. You love seeing the potential of what could be and then seeing the result of you investing in that, which is really beautiful and kind of becomes like a fun thing for you, which is really cool. And then that then leads, and we're going to be hopping around again, is to the Queen of Pentacles. Does she come sooner? She kind of comes around this time. Let me ask my Spirit real quickly. Okay, my Spirit said after you've been kind of like making some investments, this other woman shows up. Now, she's really loving, super loving, like the vibes are just coming off her really intensely, and she's super maternal in the way she sort of expresses herself in general. And she is going to both invest money like to you, like give you money to invest, be like, yeah, I agree, let's both go into this partnership. But she's also got a lot of really good advice and influence, like influence on you, but also like if you wanted to like integrate yourself into something as an investment, she would make it run smoother because people know her and she has good relationships with these people, and she tends to have like a positive effect on these people around her, and you benefit from that. So there's this beautiful like connection between the two of you where you're financially benefiting from both her actual money being invested in your investments, and again, growing it even more. We're talking like a lot of money. But also in conjunction to that, there is also the vibe of you learning so much and becoming even better at it. And again, because there's this enjoyment of the high of chasing what's the next investment, you love hearing her advice, and it feels almost like you've got a tip or trick that you're already good at, and you know, you're already good at painting, and then they gave you a little like tip that made it even smoother or more realistic or whatever you're going for. Now, moving forward, we want to talk about the Strength card in reverse. So this is really cool and beautiful. You start to rewrite the way you see yourself as a person. There's almost this like feeling of there's this part of you, when we talk about that visceral part of you that can like cut right. And remember, the Queen of Swords is smart, is super, super smart. So when she makes observations, it hurts really intensely because it feels so true, and it feels like a really good points being made. And there's this part of you that almost is like, do I let it out or do I lock it away? And there was a time when you're quote unquote letting it out, but the reality is there is not a monster inside of you that needs to either be out or in. And you stop coming from that place in yourself that sees yourself that way and feels like you're both living your most authentic self, and you are truly expressing yourself. You're not censoring yourself. But you also realize you came from the logic that that's who you were, and now you're just, that couldn't be further from the truth. You're just so invested in your daily, when we talk about invested, in your daily life, your happiness, your flow, this joy you've found in working with money in this kind of way, and this partnership and other things like that, and your life that you're benefiting from that you no longer see yourself as that individual, which then leads to the Five of Swords. We see somebody who not only went back to the next level of expressing themselves, and I don't want to say you pull back, but it is a feeling of like you're more focused intellectually benefiting, like internally thinking and benefiting from your intelligence and being really honest in a different kind of way and whatever. But then after this, there's this sense of expression that comes out oh, I'm so sorry, Peach. I didn't realize you were next to me. And you realize that you can express yourself without needing to worry if someone will put you in a position of competition, that you'll need to defend yourself, defend yourself before you're even attacked. And there's just this excitement of both being your most authentic self and your strengths in this like verbal, intelligent kind of way and seeing the truth. But it doesn't come off harsh anymore. It doesn't come from it comes from truly the deepest part of who you really are. And the fears you had surrounding it that needed to be expressed certain ways just naturally pan away. Those people aren't there anymore. Those situations aren't there anymore. So we're talking like full coming to terms, expression, peace of mind, truly being yourself, and realizing that you can be that without the worry of having to act from a different place, because the concern of like, do I need to be this way to, again, back to what we were saying, like defend myself, prevent situations, whatever. So overall, like an incredibly strong, powerful, like, yes, of course, money, but the biggest thing I take away from this is like a deep sense of self-awareness, self-peace, but also self-realization, and just having the time of your life and having this self-acceptance and just feeling so at peace by being your full self truly now. So I love that for you. And I hope you enjoyed it too. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. I love you so much. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3. Let's find out what would happen if you stopped talking about the past by looking at the cards. So we've got the Knight of Swords in reverse, the 6 of Cups in reverse, Wheel of Fortune upright, 2 of Pentacles upright, the High Priestess upright, the Empress upright, and wow, the 8 of Cups upright. Wow, this is I need to look at some details, but this feels very deep. So just give me a moment to look at everything and consult my guides, and I'll be with you in one moment. Yeah. Okay, let's get into this, because this got a lot deeper than I thought I was gonna get. Okay, so first I want to start with these two, and I want you to stick around because they're gonna sound kind of out of pocket, but they're gonna make sense as we go deeper and see what's kind of getting like you're facing stuff, basically. So this is sort of a before but they're important themes to talk about before the decision of being like, okay, we're not talking about it anymore. And remember, we're not talking about not thinking. You can think about the past, even though, you know, it would be ideal if you were more present in the moment. It's more just talking about it, relating to it, expressing it from that place. So in the Knight of Swords in reverse, my spirit guide talked about this sense of being lost. And it's this version of somebody who's really kind of jumping into situations in sort of an explosion of expression. But there's a lot of social anxiety around this, because it's almost like they'll be like, oh, here I am. Here are all my thoughts and feelings and opinions. And then it kind of was like, I don't want to say wrong time, wrong place, but you can feel it's not where you were meant to express it. Sorry about that. Anyways, back to what we were saying. With that expression of it feeling like, I got so excited, but they weren't the right people that got it. Or I feel kind of, you know, weird now that I said that thing. Or like, oh, that just, you know, I wanted to go to this place and now, I don't know, I regret it. Maybe I shouldn't have gone. Maybe I only went because of the fear of missing out. Or it's very much that feeling. It's a lot of like trying and it just feeling off after the sense of expression comes out. The other thing that I thought was kind of interesting, and I kind of asked a few times because it felt sort of out of pocket, and I was a little like, what? Which was this idea that you're denying this motherly part of yourself. Now, at first I was like, whoa, hold on. Not everybody has to have kids, and that's not the theme here. I want to be clear. It's more this idea where you desire so deeply to be the one that is taken care of and loved, and doesn't always have to cater to other people or take care of other people. So there's this sort of part of you, when we talk about the motherliness, we're talking about the part of you that's like, I want to push this aside, so in turn I'm the one that's, you could think of it as like, I'm baby, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be the one being taken care of. Now, these ideas are really interesting, how you're going to see them be faced with and evolved. So the first thing that happens once you're like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm making this little commitment for a month, I'm going to just try out this experiment, and I'm just not going to refer to things in the past. We have the Two of Pentacles, which is very self-reflective. And there's these two different parts of yourself. One almost feels like it's behind the mirror or being kind of kept back, which is the part of yourself that's like, what do I really want to do? What actually brings me joy? Actually, facing those questions, even if they're inconvenient to your daily schedule, and wanting to cater to that. But then there's this conflicted side where you're also facing it, all the daily obligations. And it almost feels like the daily obligations keep taking precedence. And it's frustrating for you that you give into it, but you feel like it's necessary. Because it's like, well, I can't go do this thing I want. I really have to get X, Y, and Z done for errands or your career or other people that you're taking care of or with or in your vicinity or something like that. And with that being the case, you're aware like, okay, so how much do I let in the part of me that asks what I really want to do, and still on the other part of me get done the errands and the other stuff that feel like obligations. And again, you kind of push one side out of the way more, but it's still a question of you being self-aware that you're seeing it in these two different comparison ways, and that you're kind of bouncing back and forth between the two of them. Now, what's really interesting here is because you have this self-realization that you view things in this way, and you're kind of monitoring and pushing things back or feeling like you have to give into something more, you're going to kind of abandon that mindset altogether. You're doing a reset mode, if you are aware of. And then you go into the High Priestess. Now, I want to be clear, while the High Priestess is somebody who gives advice to the community, we're going to view her more as a loner. And there's almost like a fear for you to be that loner, or to like give into it more. Because when we go back to that concept of the motherly and caredness, because like when you're implying you want to be cared for, you want someone else there. You don't want to hear you're alone again. That's not the vibe. But in the High Priestess mode, you're like vibing it. You go into that loner mode. You go into that, pulling back to yourself. And again, it's not about being non-social. I want to be clear. It's more that you start to slow down and you look at your life in this higher self mindset. So when we talk about this higher self mindset, we're talking about how you're taking each moment by moment. You're not looking too far in the future. You're not looking too, we're not looking in the past anymore. And you're always just looking only 1 or 2 steps ahead. And as you're looking those 1 or 2 steps ahead, ooh, that's a good idea for a tarot reading. Remember, I'm going to remember that. 1 or 2 steps ahead, you're really seeing each decision as its own. So it's not about wanting and then obligation. You're more following this invisible thread, this flow, you're like fully letting intuition be the pilot rather than desire and obligation. So you're saying to yourself, I just feel like I'm meant to be at this place at this time. And that might be getting an errand done. But in other times, you might find yourself being like, I didn't really want to go to this concert, but I just felt like I was meant to be there. And it leads to just the perfect, situation, occasion, whatever it is that you need. And you keep finding this beautiful flow of everything just working out as it needs to, without worrying about like, yeah, I'm following this flow, but I still haven't gotten my errands done. No, it's still going to work out. It's still all going to tie together. Yes, I'm following this thing, but is it really what I want? Don't worry about that. You're going to find what you really want, or find you're in the right place at the right time. Like over here, where this felt more lost and confused, you start to feel this flow and pull and only evaluate things one at a time, only one or two steps at a time, and you come from the place of, where do I think I'm meant to be in this moment? Again, not out of these two questions, just in general, the natural pull of where you're meant to be kind of thing. And everything always feels right. Everything feels like it's lining up. You're not quite sure how it is or how it expected to be or why this was the thing that made you happy or how this thing got done, and it just keeps working out for you. Now, as you continue to flow, you're really in control of your gifts at this moment, and so you then become the Empress. Now, the Empress, and this is where it's really interesting, is quite motherly. She is overflowing with abundance. That is how she can offer it to others, because this is really important for you to connect with. She is able to be there for others because she feels so internally loved. She feels loved. She feels cared for. She does not feel she has an ounce of anything missing inside of her. And she's so overflowing with it internally that not only do people benefit around her from it, but she is not worried that she's going to only be giving. And that's what's really beautiful here. My spirit guide described it as you becoming a pillar in your own built community. Remember, community is like the people you work with. It's the people that live around you. It's your friends, whatever that may be, your little community. You become a pillar. People come to you because you've got the good advice. They come to you because success just seems to drip off you. You're just good at manifesting. These things are just flowing from you. But here's the beautiful part. You feel in the state of mind to be able to be that motherly sort of giving type figure, but my goodness, do you receive it back in return. You feel like it's easy to love these people around you because you feel their love and their giving and their advice and their connection back. You feel it's being given to you in return. Not in a trade post way, not in a kind of you did this, I did that kind of thing. Just truly a flow between both of you, but you are kind of the leader because you're the one with the best, flow, so to speak, which is really beautiful. Now, this then leads to the Wheel of Fortune. In the Wheel of Fortune, there is this huge karmic release. And remember, karma is everything. It's in every kind of way we're interacting, our subconscious fears, flows, thoughts. It's stuff that hasn't quite gotten worked out in previous lifetimes, bubbling to the surface in this one, as well as our past. But what's interesting enough here is you had a bunch of karmic blockages, and from you coming to terms with all these things and operating in this new way and just really just basically like being in your power in this kind of way and operating from a totally different mindset, what ends up happening is you release a bunch of this karmic like blockages, and it will feel like you're incredibly lucky. It will feel like everything just works out for you in a really wonderful way. And then this leads to the Eight of Cups. Now, I'm going to do the best way I can explain this, but my spirit guide described it as you're going to feel like you're entering this huge new chapter in your life. And the best way I can explain it is, while we talked about all of this happening, this is its own chapter. And then you're entering a new one. So think of, there was a time in your life when you were conscious of, where were you going to get your next, paycheck, and how were things going to work out maybe in school or whatever like that. And now suddenly your day-to-day life is, what am I going to enjoy culturally in this country I'm traveling in, because you just travel all the time and that's your main obligation. Soon you're not somebody who's like a pillar of their community. You're like, I'll see you guys soon. I'm going traveling. It would be that type of concept and vibe. Like you're in a totally different day-to-day life, new trends and obligations and stuff like that. But think of it as like you're leveling up. It's like you've mastered this and now it's a huge level up, which is really cool. I can't stress enough, because sometimes people just need sort of metamorphosis and rebirths to totally kind of like reset the inside. You're like elevating, which is really cool. So I would love to know what you guys think. I think this is, if you want to try this out and try the whole just, not relating and talking about the past, you are entering just this really unexpected way of facing some things that you weren't maybe fully aware were there and you were operating from. You do this huge flip to only flip again, and it just keeps working and benefiting for you. So again, let me know what you guys think below. I love you guys so much, and let's get ready for our final group. Group number 4. Group number 4. Let's find out, if you stopped speaking about the past, what would happen by looking at the cards. So we've got the 10 of Swords in reverse. And I'll be honest with you, that looks horrifying. The 8 of Cups in reverse. 4 of Cups in reverse. Knight of Cups upright. The 5 of Cups upright. The 6 of Cups upright. Ooh, and then the 7 of Cups in reverse. I mean, upright. Okay, give me just 1 second to look at these cards and their meanings, and I will be with you in 1 moment. I'm going to consult my spirit guides too. Interesting. Okay. This is an interesting one. Okay, first we have the 5 of Cups upright, which is a really interesting one because there is this sense of, how do I put it? Like, you become self-loving and self-confident and look back on the way you used to view yourself in a sad way. Like a loving, like, is almost you're 2 separate people and you're like, I can't believe I saw myself that way. I can't believe I put myself down or thought that's all that I had to offer. Or I thought I wasn't good enough. And so there's a melancholiness initially when you make this decision and you try this out, where the realization comes with both self-love but a sadness, like you're mourning and feel for that part of yourself, which is sort of like you processing those feelings. And processing feelings is a big one with this, because then we have the 6 of Cups here, and in the 6 of Cups there feels like, while you might not be speaking about the past, it's kind of unavoidable for you, at least initially, that things that are heavy past related are still in your daily life. So this would be like childhood friends, things like that. And there is just this, once you stop talking about it, there's this suddenly epiphany that you want to make peace with these people, in the sense that you want to make peace and just accept them for who they are. You're letting go of the frustrations of feeling like the past is still being thrown at you due to these relationships and these experiences, and instead you allow them to exist as they are. But that's important. Like you're seeing yourself as a separate person and feeling for that other version of yourself you're now sort of departing from. You're no longer, seeing and approaching yourself in that way. You're allowing yourself to make peace with these people, accept them for who they are. You're letting everything go. And in that acceptance, you're in turn, they're finally leaving your life. Let me just double check that though with my spirit guide. Oh, my spirit guide said definitely they will very much leave your life the second you make peace with this. So you're just kind of being like, yep, you're you. I'm accepting it. I'm understanding it. I'm understanding what it was. And then it's finally leaving you. And again, remember, you're not talking about it. You're just making peace with now. And therefore, even more so, that environment just naturally sort of parts away from you. Now, with this happening, this then leads to the 7 of Cups. And this is really exciting for you on multiple levels, because it's not only about a lot of good things coming your way, but you actually figure out a way you like to operate and a way that you're really good at manifesting. So in the 7 of Cups upright, this talks about a lot of opportunities coming your way. And my spirit guide said it's going to come in like a lot of different parts of your life. So not just one section or category, but you will need to be decisive. And that won't be hard for you. In fact, this will be an exciting thing for you and be a new method in which you realize you really thrive off of from manifesting. So it's like fun for you to sit in all that potential and be like, ooh, if I did this, it could potentially lead to this. Ooh, but what if I did this? And there's this excitement of like, ooh, I have all these things to choose from. And you still need to make a decision, but that doesn't feel like it's hard for you. But it's fun for you to feel all of those options right before it happens. And my spirit guide said, because you have this awareness, you start to manifest in this way where you'll make these like boards where it's almost like you make a bunch of options for yourself and you get that excitement. And then from looking at the boards, you're like, and I want to manifest that. It's like you need to kind of put it all in front of you, get pumped about it, feel that joy and feel all those options and opportunities coming to you. But then you suddenly are like, and then that one, that's the one I want. Now, from there, though, we have two like sort of big awarenesses happening between the relationship of these two cards and these two cards. In the Four of Cups in reverse and the Knight of Cups upright, there's like a totally different way of approaching, not just when you're in like a dire situation, but going forward in general. So in the Four of Cups in reverse, we have somebody who's been pushed beyond their limit and probably needed to take a break a while ago. And you realize you don't solve things in your life anymore by working harder or trying more or being like, I gotta get one more thing done. Sorry about that interruption. You realize that instead of going deeper and pushing yourself harder and past limits that you don't need to push through, you really benefit from love and affection. As in, you want someone to hug you, hold your hand, pour over you with kisses and love. You want to do that for yourself personally. When you start to be like, man, I need to do more of this in order to, finish this obligation, or think that you'll do better at work or whatever, you pull back from that mindset immediately and go, no, doing more isn't going to make more. Instead, doing more of that won't make more. Instead, more love and affection is going to really recharge my soul, attract to me more of what I want, put me in a better headspace, make me realize I don't need to think and operate in those preconceived limitations or thinking that's how the world has to work for you. And you really thrive from that mentality, but also you enjoy surrounding yourself more and more with both friends, loved one, romantic partners that are wonderful and loving in that kind of way. Like you want as much, hugs and kisses and pouring out compliments, and you really soar from living in that very expressed affection, which is really beautiful. So it not only benefits you from getting out of this mindset of pushing yourself past your limit and seeing what you actually need and what will actually benefit you, but in general, you strive for that and realize that's what you want. That's what you want to operate from. That's what you want to manifest. That's where you thrive. And then going forward, we have the 10 of Swords in reverse and the 8 of Cups in reverse. We want to think of the 10 of Swords in reverse when something is sort of like finished. And we're talking a very intense sense of finality. This could be anything from a breakup, friendship, or romantic. This could be an idea that you're no longer wanting going back from. Maybe you choose to leave a particular career or something like that or whatever. And think of Alice over here with her rainbow aura and vibes and powers. Think of that as you over here, the person who suddenly really realized that they're pretty great as they are, connect to that and thrive off of that. Talk about love and affection. That's why these cards are interacting with one another. But in the 8 of Cups in reverse, she's sort of trying to send that back to her old self. So again, it's this awareness that like, you know what? Going back and trying to love that part of those experiences you had or whatever, while they're well-intentioned, as you can see, they can't get through. And that the less you think you need to have this, while it's a very love, it's basically you're coming from like the part of you that just wants to give a lot of love. While that is good intentioned, what you're happening and experiencing is you're lightening your load by letting things be complete and finished and letting them be gone. No more contact, no more going back to that train of thought, no more re-experiencing. When you've quit and you're done something, you let it be done. And you realize you're actually benefiting and lightening your load and glowing and growing and becoming more colorful and more powerful and able to be the person you want to be and wield the power you'd like to have by letting that exist. That you are not cold-hearted, that you are not somehow limited by letting that go. Not going backwards in that type of way. Because it's well-intentioned. You're like, oh, I got all this love, I can spend it over here. No. You have it because you allowed it to go. So I love this for you. This is really beautiful. I'm especially excited about this beautiful card over here and these ideas. And I'm excited to hear what you guys think about that. And if you're going to like try out those manifestations immediately. I love you guys so much. I will see you in the next one. And goodbye.